Hey there. Welcome to Top of Mind. Real talk for today's woman. With Anna and Karen.
Hey, Anna. So,
Hey,
we're going to discuss grounding today.
we are going to talk a little bit about grounding because we finished the last episode as one of my non-negotiables,
Mhm.
which we talked about our non-negotiables, and I added because I forgot to add my grounding.
Yep.
So grounding actually is a scientific process that they have now confirmed with science because the Earth is loaded with negative ions. So our ancestors, or the way we used to live, we were outside a hell of a lot more than we are today, and we didn't really necessarily have the types of shoes that we have today.
Mhm.
Um, so we were much more in tune with earth and grounding than we are than our modern society or modern lifestyles. So for me, when I ground, I go outside barefoot. So, and at the end of the last segment, we talked about how the different ways, like how water is very powerful grounding source. So is the beach, sand, the earth. Now, for me, I'm giving you feet, but what's another way we can ground with the earth that we don't use our feet? You know?
Well, I use a pad
Okay,
frequency.
but not our feet. See, I totally put you on the spot. You're like, oh,
Oh, you talk about your hands, like when you run them
yes,
underwater. Yeah.
yeah, your hands. So you
Yeah.
can garden, digging in the dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all too grounding. It's not just our feet. I just primarily use my feet. Um, and we were starting to talk about like it's winter. Like you live in freaking Canada.
Don't say it that way. It's good. It's not freaking
Well,
Canada,
listen, I think
but it's
Canada's
cold.
beautiful, but it's cold. It's
Oh,
cold.
frick, it's cold.
So
Yeah.
your winter's much longer than mine here in the mid-Atlantic. So I live in a home, so I have a basement. And that basement is dirt, and on top of it is a poured concrete foundation.
Mhm.
So I can go to my basement, take my shoes off, and ground because there's three surface areas that interfere with the magnetism of the earth. So there's three surfaces that kind of prohibit the negative ions from reaching us, and that would be asphalt,
Yep.
like our streets, rubber, like our sneakers, and wood. So they're the three kind of elements that it's very hard to ground through. So for me, I can go to my basement and ground.
One one of the things you kind of skipped over is just talking about it's about the negative ion exchange. Why is that important, Anna?
It's important because we hold stress. And I think it may have been this episode that we lost. And I think, did I talk about the jackrabbit
No, I don't think so.
and the fox? Um,
Okay, no, I
I
don't
think I
remember
did
that.
because I disclosed myself as a tree hugger, which we'll also talk about as
Right.
grounding.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if we look at the animal world, and let's say we have a rabbit, okay, and little bunny foo-foo's hanging out, and here comes big old beautiful orange fox. Oh,
Yeah.
yummy dinner. What happens? Bunny foo-foo runs as fast as he can to get away from the fox. Once he escapes, his natural body is to shake. He
Mm,
shakes to let go of that stress.
yes.
And if you think about, say, two dogs that, when two dogs come, and dogs are energy based, right? Two dogs get together, and let's say they're going to fight, but, they get pulled apart. They shake after the fact because they have to release that energy, that kind of stress. That's
Mm,
what grounding does to us. That is what grounding does for our physical body. So instead of like putting our feet or hands to the earth or to the trees, we spend our day in shoes inside. We go to a job. We come home. We get dinner. So we're never kind of outside, and we're never releasing that stress. Um, I know again it was recorded because I told you that my husband started grounding, and one day I look out and he's touching my tree, and I'm like,
yeah.
"Get off my tree!" Because we were talking about the fact that I had ordered grounding sheets that we'll talk about,
Mm,
and he he's in my world a lot and he hears things, but until he's ready, I don't press him. We've talked about him embracing self-love. We'll talk about, but I talk about grounding. He has seen me outside grounding probably for I don't know how many years, but it never connected. But when I started to talk to my 22-year-old about it, and she immediately shut me down as because is stupid. Um,
Love
he,
kids.
I love him to death. He decided he was going to. He read an article, and that article told him all the benefits of grounding and why it's so important to us. So he's one day he's outside with his bare feet. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And then I see him reach up and he's touching my tree. And I'm like, wait, I need a second time out. No, but anyway, I'm making light of the situation, but he has started grounding now.
Cool.
And I can promise you this, if you just start to ground, you will feel a difference in your stress level. Like now he feels when he doesn't ground, he feels a difference in his stress level because it helps us reduce the stress because again, it helps us kind of get rid of the positive the ions that are negative or to us and bring in the counteract it with the ions of the earth that are positive for us. They're actually it's reverse. It's negative ions from the earth and but it's a lot. I'm telling you a ton of science behind it because
Yeah.
I know like you use a grounding mat.
Yeah. Yeah. So just so that people know, excuse me, there are grounding mats, and some of them what they do is they let off the static electricity. So you'll have one end's positive, and you can put it into the ground, you can attach it to something, and it what it's doing is it's exchanging the ions so that you are getting back into homeostasis is what that is, right? When we walk around, we lose negative ions, and it becomes what do we call it? Oxidative. It becomes positively charged and it becomes I hate this when you get this age and you forget things. But anyway, so that is a grounding mat.
Mhm,
There are some of them out there. There are sheets that Anna's talking about. I've tried those as well
mhm.
that are like that. I'm not actually using that. What I'm using is pulse electromagnetic field. It's PEMF, and the Earth's energy is at 7.8 megahertz. Megahertz, I guess it is. And so what this does is through using magnets and putting through some sound into it, it basically can do the same thing, changes the frequency within me, because that's what a frequency is. It's about the electrons, the positive, negative, all that type of stuff. That's one way of doing it. Some people use tuning crystals to the sound of AC, which is the same frequency as the Earth. You can tune them to I think it's called AC, middle C, and then that will also send out the frequency. So those are different ways of doing it. So you don't have to, like me, Canadian, go out of my bare frickin' feet. But there's a couple of things. Is I started using this mat, and it's one of my non-negotiables. I forgot. Grounding is the one thing that I love doing,
Mhm.
um, and it takes me 10 minutes in the morning when I can't explain to you exactly what it does like, and how, but I can tell you that I miss it when it's not there. I feel lighter.
Mhm.
I don't know what, like, it's just lighter, better, healthier. I don't know what, but there's all these things. Okay. And I was just going to go, if you want to know, there's a movie. We talked about it before. It's on, um, uh, YouTube. It's called the Grounding documentary is, I think, the Earthing movie.
Okay, yes, earthing. Yep, I think that's what it
Yeah,
I
the
mean, I've
Earthing
not
movie.
watched it, but I believe that's indeed what it's called, and I was just looking because I have, like, all my, I was looking
Yeah,
to see if I could
he's
grab my research real fast, but
he I think in the end he was a fellow who invented the fellow who's the documentary in here. He invented earthing shoes, I think, in the end to try to mitigate that whole idea of having something on our feet while being able, yeah, the earthing movie. So um yeah, which will get you lots more. I think my light just died, did it? There we go.
I still
Which
see
will,
you. I see
yeah.
you.
So and it's funny, how people are drawn to each other because, Anna, I hadn't met Anna at that point, and I was already doing the PMF, and then she was teaching about this course, and it's funny how things happen, and we'll talk about it at some point about charging water and what that
Mhm.
does and that type of stuff. I didn't, I had gotten into it. And again, it's just, the energy, the universe does things. It brought us together at a time when I didn't know anybody else who was studying this stuff. And then I met Anna, it was kind of neat. So,
Mhm.
but so yeah, grounding, like I said, I can never articulate what this mat does for me each day, the grounding aspect, but I know that I miss it when it's been a few days.
Well, you actually said it. You said homeostasis.
Yeah.
And
Right.
really what that is our body in balance. That's really our bodies are designed to be in balance. And things take our bodies out of balance. So
Yeah.
grounding actually reduces the charge in our body to kind of bring us back.
Right.
But and again, it sounds so woo-woo, but until people try it, and I'm using my husband, I'm throwing him under the bus that now he feels a difference. Like I
Yeah.
was away for a long weekend and I get back and he's so stressed and he goes, you know what? I haven't been doing my grounding. So
Hmm.
once it becomes part of it, and there's different ways, again, like, you do something different than me, because we are energy.
Yep.
We are at the very, very, center of our, atom. We're energy. That's what we are. So we're affected by energy. We're affected by fluorescent lights. We're affected by a lot of different things. And, that's why the sunrise, sunset, the infrared, that's why that's important too. But, it's all micro steps. Um, so
Like you
yeah, it
talk,
helps you kind of get out of that, that sympathetic, state, the fight, flight,
yeah.
freeze, flight.
What's funny when you're talking about the shaking, I equated to, being a police officer, 911 response. And I remember the first time this ever happened to me, my division's too big. And even going lights and sirens, it took 6 minutes for me to get from one side to the other to respond to something.
Hmm.
And I remember flying open the door and it was a jumper or somebody was threatening to jump. So I ran out and almost fell on my face
Hmm.
because my legs felt like they were trembling. And I
Hmm.
just felt this all through me. And it was the effects of so much adrenaline dump for
Hmm.
so long.
Yeah.
And my whole body was quivering. I have to say today, I hate that feeling,
Hmm.
when you get to that point. But so when you talked about the animal, like quivering, I can equate so much that, and that's stress. That's exactly what it is,
Right.
when you have that big an adrenaline dump. So,
Mhm.
and you talked about hugging trees as another way of grounding. Now, I kind of imagine you going like this. I know I don't do that. I kind of back up, beep, beep, beep,
Uh-huh.
and lean against a tree and just close my eyes and kind of feel what I feel is the energy, the sap kind of running in it. That's what I imagine, and my feet in the ground. But like, I have a feeling you actually hug the trees. Do you?
Well, it really depends because
Depends
remember, I
on the
always
day.
ask for permission
Right.
because
Oh,
they're living. And I do want to talk, about like, well, in just a minute, I want to talk about the neuro doctor who's now making her rounds and what she talks about with trees. And I got to look up her name.
okay.
But sometimes I put my hand on the tree. Sometimes, not often do I hug it. A lot of times I lean against it and I talk. And you
Mhm.
and I talked about this. Like I will go out there and when I'm grounding, I'm kind of like just releasing. So I might be just talking about what's on my mind, what I can do. Um, Lately I've been incorporating this I don't know prayer a lot, when I feel really, really lost. So it just depends on, but yes, I'll physically touch them very seldom, but I've been known to, especially if I feel called, if I feel like an energetic pull to do it. Um, and I'm sorry, I was just trying to look that thing up. But there's a neuro and I can look her name up.
Is it Dr. Leaf?
I don't think so.
Caroline Leaf? No? Oh, I thought it would have been perfect.
I
If it
I
was.
don't think it's her,
Okay.
and let me just see because, I mean, she basically talks about how healing the energy of trees are.
Hmm.
Firs, evergreens, palms, how you don't even like me, you don't have to touch them, you almost just have to be in their presence.
Right.
And this is a doctor.
Yes.
So
Well,
for people.
and it goes back to the whole idea we talked about the last time, the one that I lost was the Japanese sunbathing.
Yes.
You know, in the fact that just being out, they have this practice that for health and healing, you're supposed to go out and walk in a forest, you know, because there's cleaner air and you're feeling the energy and that it's you had the Japanese word for it, I forget what it was.
What's called forest bathing. That's what they call
Oh,
it. Forest bathing. Now, I for some reason I thought maybe you brought up the Japanese. I'm trying to see if I can find this doctor. I felt like you brought the Japanese name up. I don't know why.
as you can see, we both look up things all the time. when
Yeah,
we're
that's kind of.
chatting.
And I was, yeah, because I'm trying to find the doctor because again, she's on a lot of podcasts, super interesting because she talks about manifestation too. So
Right.
again, I'm gonna look her up. But finish what you were saying about sunbathing,
Oh,
about the forest
yes,
bathing.
it's Shinrin Yoko is what it is. So it's a practice of doing this. And I know that part of it is actually that's it. I had discussed that for a couple of years they had set up in a small little trail in Toronto where you actually went in and you had a nice bath. There was a bathtub and you kind of had a bath. And then afterwards you would go walking through the forest. And we have a spa up here that does the same thing. The whole idea is that you're outside going cold, warm, this type of stuff. Then you go out and you walk through a certain path on the forest. Again, it's all part of the idea of, you know, a spa, of the hot and cold, of it being the forest bathing. And they
Mhm.
call it Shinrin Yoko. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it anywhere near what it's supposed to. But
That's what we love about each other.
yes.
Mhm. But
So
and I said I love that idea because one of the ways again that we can release the energies are
yes,
through water. So that's why I love that idea of the forest bathing and the water because
right,
both are very cleansing in different ways. Complementary but different.
right. So
So I love that aspect, that idea of it.
So, I think we're almost at the end. You think? Anything else left for forest bathing this time around, or
Grounding. No,
grounding?
but I think I would encourage everybody because again, it sounds very woo-woo, but there is a lot of science behind it. And Karen and I both kind of go down rabbit holes and we can certainly talk about the science, but we want to keep this more dynamic. It gets a little boring to kind of talk about the science. And God knows if we're not screwing up somebody's name, then what's the point? That's like part of the
Sorry, what's your name
fun.
again? Was it Anna?
Oh, but I definitely encourage you to look into the practice. And if you can just again, and we'll talk about microset, we'll talk about processes, but it doesn't have to be big or overwhelming. It doesn't have to be complex. My philosophy is keep it simple, stupid. So that's
Yep.
kind of like my philosophy.
So give it a go, and the Earthing movie. I know that that's what changed my mind and perception about this woo thing. When it throw science at me, I'm in. So give it a watch. See what you reserve judgment till then. Just be
Yes.
open. Okay.
Yeah,
So
be
anyway,
open.
thanks for joining us today. I'm Karen Vale, confidence and mindset coach, and I'm with.
Anna Jennings, and I'm basically your midlife mentor, and I help you focus on health and holistic health and well-being.
And she's still trying to get her tongues around that one.
I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I am. So bear with me.
Thank you.
Love you all.